All right, thank you. All right, thank you for being here today. We'll get started with Coach Cook. We'll just jump right into questions. Brent Wagner.
Yeah, John, you said when you practiced in the first semester, there were a lot of practices where you didn't have everybody there. Since you came back in January, what's the participation level been for practice?
It's been better. We've been doing well, and but I think this is day 12 today. So, but we've had to kind of work into it more than we would in the summer, just because they were off for 2 weeks at Christmas, and so anyway, it's just been a little different schedule than what we're used to.
Lincoln R. Neal.
Coach, what is different about this team now as you're beginning to prepare for this season, as opposed to where you ended things when you were after you lost to Wisconsin?
What's different?
Yeah.
Well, we have a different coaching staff. We've got 3 new freshmen. Of course, we return a good chunk of our team from last year. I think we have 5 players that were here last year that aren't here this year. So there's a lot of changes in our team and personnel, coaching staff. So I think those are the biggest changes. The 2 constants are Lindsey Peterson, Director of Ops, who's been here since 2006, and Coach Cook.
Shane Gilster.
Lindsey's standing right here, so I'm just trying to make sure she's awake.
Shane Gilster.
Yeah, hey, Coach. Shane Gilster here. How has this COVID pandemic kind of made your group? I know you have experienced leaders on there, but how has this kind of like made your group closer, the core leadership, and how have they managed and navigated through this time to really give you a lot of positivity this upcoming season?
Well, that'd be a great question to ask the players when they get up here. I think being in a bubble kind of forces you to be kind of a group, and they spend a lot of time with each other because you have to stay within your bubble. Same with the coaches. We're all trying to stay within a bubble. We're not out recruiting. We're not out going places. So I just think there's been a lot of more quality time spent as our group. And when I say our group, I'm talking about our coaches, our grad managers, our support staff, and, of course, our players. So I think that's kind of forced it, and you can ask them what they've done and how they feel.
Okay. Thank you.
Kevin Suits.
John, you've coached Olympians, you've won national championships, you've been around a lot of really good volleyball. How is this team from a competitive standpoint? Just your assessment before you get going here next week.
Well, it's been a little bit slower process in building a team just because with all the breaks and all the interruptions. But at times, this group has shown they can play at a really high level. Now we're trying to get that to be consistent, and I think that's one of the hardest things, and maybe the hardest things, I think, if you talk to coaches and other teams is, again, there's a lot of interruptions all the time, and so trying to get a consistent performance level, and the other thing, getting in a routine. We're trying to get in a routine, and of course that changes from last week it was different to this week it's different because the Big Ten's now more involved. So, but I'm excited because I think this team is a year older, it's a year wiser. It's, I think our leadership on our team is, and the seniors have set a great tone of working to improve every day. So they come in wanting to get better, wanting to work on things, not leave the gym till they get it. And we've had a lot of time to watch more video. So there's been a lot of great learning going on. And at times we're showing some things at a very high level. Again, we haven't played in 13 months. So, of course, I get anxious because we haven't played. So, I mean, that's our real test is when we play. Then that's when we're going to find out how much of this is transferred, and we got to get through some nerves. But this group has done a really, really good job. And I'm going to give our captains and seniors a ton of credit for holding it all together because just like for all of us, it's, these are young people, and this is a weird time for everybody, and it's challenging.
Andrew Ward.
Hey, John, it always seems like you guys have a motto heading into every season, or like a slogan or something you guys kind of stick to. What's this year's, and what's the reason for that?
Well, we have a great one, and you got to stay tuned when it's unveiled, because our social media people will unveil it. It's going to be epic.
Michelle Vopel.
I just found out yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? I just found out. So, but it's going to be this is going to be epic. Let's just put it that way. It's going to be a major Hollywood production. I know they're in quarantine out there in Hollywood, but we're going to Hollywood it up here.
Michelle Vopel.
Yeah, Coach Cook. This is Michelle Vopel from ESPN.com. Obviously with men's and women's basketball, we've seen constant postponements, programs on pause, cancellations, games moved around. Do you feel like the way that the schedule's set up, obviously we're playing back-to-back games in one location, will that help prevent that? How much have you talked to, the other coaches about that and having to be flexible because of the schedule changes or potential schedule changes?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody else has really been doing it that way. Of course, only football and basketball have been playing. So I don't know, but it gives us the best chance. As a Big Ten coaches group, we worked on this for months and trying to decide, what gives us our best chance and have a meaningful season. And this is what we came up with, and we're very thankful the Big Ten ADs approved this. Because it does still require some long-distance travel, which we were trying to avoid. But, I think it's going to be a challenge. And, I follow our basketball programs. They've had their challenges. So we're just going to try to do everything we can, stay in the bubble as much as we can. But this gives us the best chance, I think, playing back-to-back, the same team, because you're cutting out some of the risks. Instead of 2 hotels, it's 1 hotel. Instead of 4 flights, it's 2 flights. So I just think it gives us the best chance.
Thank you.
Austin Kingsley from the Daily Nebraskan.
Hey, Coach, I know that you've long advocated moving collegiate volleyball to the spring, and I know we haven't gotten a full TV schedule yet, but do you feel that this unusual season is maybe a unique opportunity to grow the viewership of the sport and grow it to where you see it, and that being the main reason that you've advocated a long time to move it to the spring?
Well, this is going to be different because we don't have fans. So, but I think there's a really big pent-up demand. So I'm not sure we can really evaluate it because there's just so much pent-up demand to watch volleyball and watch sports. But I think it'll be an interesting idea to run it in the spring and see how people like it. It's not exactly how I would set it up. If I would change the dates a little bit and move it later to avoid some of the conflicts with scheduling with basketball and gymnastics and those things. But we'll see how it goes. And but I'm pretty sure I've already seen our TV schedule. I mean, pretty much 90% of our matches are going to be televised. So there's a great indicator for you right there. So 22 matches, I think 19 maybe are televised. So we don't have that in the fall, especially after November 1st when basketball starts.
Andy Kendi.
Hey, Coach. 2 questions. One, what was your take where you guys landed in the national rankings? And 2, how much do you play up the fact that the Final Four is in Omaha?
Well, I put about 0% in the national rankings because the people that vote on that are voting Hawaii in the top 20. And last I checked, Hawaii's not even playing volleyball. So they must be really, really good. So I don't put too much into it. It's where we finished last year. All I know is the last 2 times we were ranked 5th, we won national championships. So that's all I got. That's all and we haven't even really talked about it, but there's some things for you guys to write about. How's that?
Do you talk about Omaha as a final destination, though?
We've been talking about it. Again, I'm really, until something's set in stone and we know exactly what the format is. But right now, we're just worried about trying to play, play and keep this group together and see how this season goes. We're going to have to do really well in the Big Ten to get to the tournament. But it's always a goal to get to Omaha when Omaha's hosting. And I'm still not sure it's 100%, but I think we're pretty close to Omaha hosting. And maybe the whole thing, I've heard. So lots going on, but we know it's close. But man, it's a long road ahead of us right now before we start worrying about that.
Jacob Padilla.
Hey, Coach. You do bring a lot back, but you also have some new pieces that you're working in. What are the challenges of diving straight into conference play as you're kind of still figuring yourself out?
Better be good first point because every point's going to be there's a bigger sense of urgency and every point's worth more now because we don't have a month to prepare to get to the Big Ten season. So you got to be good out of the gate, and that's the most important thing. And you got to win close matches. NCAA tournaments reduced field and they're going to take less teams, so that just makes it even every point's going to be big.
We have time for a few more. Lincoln Arneal.
Coach, you talked that during the fall you had a lot more time for one-on-one instructional work with the players. What have you seen? Who has made kind of a leap or improved their skill level during that time you had during the fall?
I think everybody has. I think, like I said, when we play, we'll see what transfers and what goes on. But everybody's been challenged. I could probably just go down the list and tell you something about everybody that I think has improved. But most importantly, their mindset has been really good about getting better. And sometimes that's hard when you're not playing for months and weeks or you don't even have a schedule. That's been the biggest challenge is how do you come in and work and get better every day knowing there's no insight right now, or was. And so that's what this team did the best job of. They came in to work knowing, we may not even have the season could have been canceled, but they still came in and really worked really hard to get better.
Brent Wagner.
Yeah, what would force Nebraska have to postpone a match? What would force a postponement?
Brent, there's a rule book. I think we actually get it tomorrow. I don't know everything. I haven't tried to keep up with it. They're having meetings every day, so I don't know exactly what it is. And again, so I can't answer that.
You're thin at outside hitter. If something happening there, would you have to shift middle blockers, or would a match be postponed?
Again, that's what I don't know what our parameters are going to be for that. The most important thing for me will be, can we put out a team that can compete and be safe? I mean, you're not going to take a libero and put him at middle blocker, for example. So if you don't have setters, it's going to be, you're not going to be able to be competitive. So, but I think there's going to be some rules in place, but also I think it comes down to two coaches talking. Is it worth it? Spending money to go to travel and do all that if it's not going to be competitive. So that'll be the most important thing, is having a quality product and keeping it competitive and making sure the athletes stay safe.
Michelle Vopel.
Yeah, Coach, I had a question about the NCAA tournament, but if I could squeeze in one, and I hope this isn't a dumb question, but we saw with the Denver Broncos, they had to play a game with no quarterbacks. They had to go to basically a taxi squad player. How many people on your team can set? I know that's it's a theoretical question, but if you had your setters out, could you have somebody else do it, or are we going to maybe see situations where, like you said, teams can't play because of a specific skill position not available?
Yeah, I think the difference is it's the NFL. They've got everything going on and all the money. Everybody in our team's a setter. I tell them that every day, because at some point you have to set a ball. Now, running an offense and being a setter, that's a whole different ball game. And I don't think really it would be fair to any team to play against or play for if you didn't have a setter. And you just take somebody and throw them in there. It would be I don't think that would be good for anybody. So, and I think that's what the rules are. Rules we're going to go by are, you've got to have somebody at each position that is playing that position.
With the NCAA tournament, I know you addressed this, back in the fall or, when you had your previous Zoom, but now that we've had certain conferences have their seasons and we know it's a smaller field, are you concerned at all about how, this is going to be seeded? And have you gotten any more clarification from maybe NCAA people in terms of how they're going to evaluate, the two different seasons coming at different times?
Well, that committee is going to have their A game. I've suggested that they maybe get some outside help to people that really know the game. For example, Karch, and to help advise them, because there's going to be no fair way to do an RPI, to compare things. So it's going to have to be the eye test, and I think Ohio State got to go to the playoffs, and even though they only played 6 games, they waived rules there. I think I'm just trusting that the best teams, the best 48 teams are going to get to go to the tournament, and the deserving teams, and they'll find a fair way to do that and evaluate that. But it's going to be very, very difficult, and they're going to have to earn their stripes on that committee.
Thank you.
Last question from Jacob Padilla.
Hey, Coach, I know you have 3 members of your 2021 recruiting class on campus already to practice with you this season, kind of covering some old ground, but could you just give me some background a little bit on how way back when you kind of identified this specific group as the future of Nebraska volleyball, and kind of the idea that went into getting them all together at that camp and kind of offering and recruiting them together like that?
Yeah, well, I think it was 4 years ago we had Dream Team Camp, we called it, and we wanted to invite the best players that we were recruiting to come to that camp. And we just happened to have, for whatever reason, the dates worked. Everybody, we had probably 24 Division I recruits in that camp, and we decided to make some offers early because that was still kind of the cool thing to do, and there was talk about potentially delaying that, so we didn't want to, be left outside. Holding the bag, if that was going to pass, which it eventually did. So we made some offers, and ironically, that group really bonded for whatever reason, and just kind of lined up, and now 3 of them are here, and the other 3 will be here this summer, and so obviously they've got a lot of hype, but they're still freshmen. And they're still going to be freshmen, and they're still got to learn how to play at this level and in this conference. But they've had a lot of success up to this point, which is great because it's hard to teach success if you haven't had any.
All right, that's all from Coach Cook. We will be right back with the players.
Thanks, guys.